It's Thursday, and Matt and I are here, and we're talking a stunner last night. Italy comes out of 8-7 winner, and I don't think anybody thought that at the in pool play that the United States would be in a situation where they don't control their own destiny. Today is today, and Mexico and Italy play tonight. That's on FS1. It's a 7 o'clock game. It's for everything.
Yeah. It's a result that I didn't see coming. I think it's a result of their pitching and the lack of depth that they had. We talked
Hmm.
about some of the guys that chose not to play for Team USA in the World Baseball
Hmm.
Classic. I'd say the biggest name amongst them probably Garrett Crochet.
Hmm.
You felt that last night when Noel McLean from the Mets was their starter.
Hmm.
The depth didn't pitch a whole lot better in terms of the bullpen either.
Hmm.
And then you pair that together with a night where the offense just did not get rolling until the seventh, eighth, ninth innings,
Right.
and it was just a really bad recipe, really bad game from Team USA. And I mean that's you would expect more out of them, given the roster that they had assembled specifically on
Hmm.
offense, but it was too little, too late. They put together a really good effort in those latter innings, but it just wasn't enough. And it's a disappointing result if you're Mark DeRosa and if you're really any one of those members of Team USA right now.
Yeah, and the other thing to me, it kind of punctuated the evening was, you know, Judge striking out with the opportunity to tie the game.
Hmm.
That was kind of symptomatic of what happened last night. I don't think it's. I honestly don't think that it's too much to say or too hyperbole to say that if the United States does not make it through this round and onto the quarters, that it would be like um, along the lines of the dream team in Olympic basketball not making it to the quarterfinals.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a roster that is designed to go win the World Baseball Classic. It's
Hmm.
it's a roster that was one of the best ones they could field. They were building it for a while. Mark
Hmm.
DeRosa was announced as manager a long time ago, and they had
Hmm.
a long time. Aaron Judge was committed for really as soon as DeRosa was named manager, pretty
Yeah.
much. And they went out and they got a lot of the big names. Obviously, they missed on some of the bigger names as well, mainly in the pitching department, but they got most of the big names that they were looking for in terms of who they wanted to build out this roster. And when it comes down to it, there's some of them that just have not shown up. Bryce Harper has not played well in this World Baseball
Hmm.
Classic. Aaron
Yeah.
Judge has played well, and I don't think it's a because people make a big deal about like is Aaron Judge clutch, like does he is he made for the moment. I don't think him striking out last night is like, well, he's not made for the moment. Like
No.
if he had
No.
if he had hit a home run, then yeah,
Right.
cool, but again, it's not expected. But
Well,
I think the biggest
yeah.
thing is it was a really poor swing decision by him on that pitch, and they just needed to keep the line moving.
I think the other thing too is that what we're looking at here is players who, on the U.S. team for the most part, who haven't really played in a while. I mean, this is really spring training, okay, for them. It's not
Yeah.
like it's not like they rushed down to start practice for the World Baseball Classic. I think in sometimes, and you've got these guys who are talented. I mean, my God, look at that. That's an all-star team they got out there. And sometimes they think, well, we can just roll out of bed and beat teams, right? Um, and you saw how scrappy Italy was. I mean,
Hmm.
they just came out there and said, okay, you're going to give us a chance, we're going to take it. Um, there's absolutely no reason why Major League Baseball pitchers give up 8 runs to the lineup that they were facing last night.
No, it was really an unacceptable pitching performance. And I mean that's what if Team USA does not make the quarterfinals, that's going to have been their downfall. Is
Hmm.
they gave up too many runs. They gave up a lot of runs to Mexico, and they've given up
Hmm.
runs really on the back end because it's not something. I wonder in the grand scheme of things when Mark DeRosa has been managing this, if he's had a true understanding of the way things work and on the backside in terms of tiebreakers with the runs
Right.
scored. Because there's times, oh God, what was the team? They were playing, who else is in the pool that they haven't played? I'm
Well,
trying
they
to
played
think.
everybody in the pool, haven't they?
Brazil, yeah. So Brazil, that's who it
Mhm.
was. That first game against Brazil, they were up a significant margin, but still on the backside, they didn't throw their best arms, and they gave up 4 runs to Brazil on the
Mhm.
back end. And
Right.
it's those kinds of runs that have stacked up and have given them problems because they weren't able to close them out. They gave up 5 to Mexico. They gave up 4 to Brazil. And then obviously last night what happened with Italy. It's just not, if they are to make the quarterfinals, the type of
Mhm.
pitching that they've received out of their bullpen has not been acceptable and will not win you a World Baseball Classic.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And the other thing too, I think that part of the problem, and you brought this up on differential, right, is most of those other teams they're playing in the tournament are understand World Cup soccer, which is based on exactly the same rules of goal differential and all of that the World Baseball Classic is done. I mean, literally, you could cut and paste almost
Mm-hmm.
the rules, and these guys know the rules. So if they get wiped out this afternoon, they got nobody to blame but themselves.
Yeah, and I he definitely doesn't deserve all of the blame, but in terms of the tournament as a whole up until this point in the pool play,
Mhm.
Mark DeRosa's tenure as the manager has not gone well.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that he's bad necessarily,
Right.
but it just it hasn't been good. I mean, you go back to last night and you look at who was warming up to come out in the eighth, and then all of a sudden he switches it around and Mason Miller's now warming, and he ends
Mhm.
up coming in. The guy who probably should have been coming in anyways.
Mhm.
So he got notified in the moment. It was clear that he was not understanding what that moment was for Team Italy and what it meant for the runs if they were to score some more.
Mhm.
Um, and so he had to alter his change. And it wasn't just last night. It's been different decisions throughout games. I've not been a big fan of Bryce Terang being in the starting lineup multiple times. I just don't think he's a part of your best 9 hitters. So there's been some questionable decisions in terms of who's coming out of the bullpen, but there's also been some questionable decisions when it comes to the lineup construction as well.
Yeah. The one thing I do wonder, because Mark is, it's kind of weird. I'm absolutely certain that Mark is on a text chain with every manager in Major League Baseball
Hmm.
about, you know, they'll send him a text going, "Don't throw X, don't throw. We'll use Skeens for an instance, right? Don't throw Skeens more than 2 or 3 innings.
Hmm.
Don't. I don't want to see so and so for more than 2 or 3 at bats, right? Because they're all thinking about the season.
Hmm.
DeRosa has to work about this whole thing. What we don't know is what intel he's getting or input from the major league managers and general managers as to what he is allowed to do with the players he's got on his roster. Because I can tell you that is part of the deal. There is reasons, that the league, they'll send their players out there, but you know, at the end of the day, the teams will tell him what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, and that's why you have to preface it
Mm-hmm.
with I'm not like I don't know if he's a bad manager because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what he's been given on the
Right,
backside. I don't know what he's actually truly allowed to work with.
right.
So there is that, and but I will say when push comes to shove, coaching staff manager aside, is that when you look at it and you look at the 26 guys on the Team USA
Mm-hmm.
roster, you look at the 26 guys on the other rosters in their pool play
Mm-hmm.
bracket. This is not a roster that should be worried about the outcome of the Italy and Mexico game tonight. This is a roster that is made up of MLB All Stars, and you look at it, and yeah, maybe there's an All Star or two on some other teams, but these guys are not
Mm-hmm.
complete rosters or anywhere close
No,
to it. So it's
There's no
really
depth.
an
Yeah.
yeah, it's really an unacceptable result when you look at the pitching that the other
Mhm.
teams have, and when you look at the hitters and the lineups that the other teams have. There's not a lineup that Team Italy can throw out that it should be an acceptable result to give up 8 runs in
No.
that game.
I think that moving forward, the when Stern put together the dream team in '94 in Barcelona, there wasn't a single person talking about players and such. There wasn't a single person that did not um, did not buy in. Okay, they were there to play balls to the wall. They were not gonna. There was nothing that said there was no restriction put on Magic, on Larry, on Chuck, on any of the stars of that team. Um, and if you want to truly win, then you got to roll out your best players, and you can't micromanage Mark DeRosa from a text chain.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But again, it's when you look at that infield and you
Mm-hmm.
have the option to run out an infield that has a Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop, and then some
Mm-hmm.
combination of either Gunnar Henderson or Alex Bregman at second and third. That
Right.
that's your best infield. That's your best lineup. Bryce Harper obviously
Mm-hmm.
playing first base in that
Right.
scenario. Cal Raleigh at catcher, and then you go to the outfield and you've got a pretty stacked lineup. Like all of the outfielders have played really pretty well, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really my biggest issue with the lineup has been Bryce Terang, and it's cost him on the defensive side. He's not been fantastic defensively, and he hasn't really swung it that well either.
Well, and you got Gunnar Henderson can easily play second or third base.
Hmm.
There's no reason for him not to be in the lineup. And with that bat, you definitely want him in the lineup.
Yep.
And defensively, I mean, personally, I've seen him in person play second and third base. So I mean, it's like, and he's just as good at second and third as he is at shortstop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't get why you're not putting Gunnar Henderson in the game because he's the player. There's no I'm not going to say no. Let's say there's no team in their present pool that should be able to get that lineup out as easy as Italy did for the most part into the late innings yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's that, but now we've got this scenario, and since we've talked to it, we've alluded to it. These are the scenarios now that have been laid out in order for Team USA to make the quarterfinals. If Italy wins, then the United States will advance to the quarterfinals. But if
Mm-hmm.
Mexico wins and scores more than 5 runs, then
Mm-hmm.
Mexico and Italy will advance. Or no, Italy
The other way
or
around.
Mexico and the U.S. will advance. If Mexico wins and they do not score more than 5 runs, then it will be Italy and Mexico that are advancing to the quarterfinals, and the
Mm-hmm.
United States will be sent home. And again, talked about Mark DeRosa, talked about his managerial tenure this World Baseball Classic, but it was his biggest misstep is when he talked about having the ticket already punched to the quarterfinals, and then asked about it in his press conference after, and he just said he misspoke. That's a big misstep on his part. And whether or not he did or did not know the rules and the way things worked, and he really did think that their ticket was punched, regardless, the optics of it are very, very poor in the moment.
Well, especially when you do it before the game that you're playing against a team that, for all intents and purposes, thinks, "Oh, okay, so they're counting us as a walkover."
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's another side. To be honest with you, I hadn't even thought about it from that angle as well. Is
Mhm.
it gives them motivation on the back end, Team Italy, to go out there
Mhm.
and play their best because again, they do have MLB players on that team.
Sure.
Vinny Pascantino is their starting first baseman. He plays for the Kansas City Royals. When he's been healthy, he was a really good
Mhm.
power hitter. So
Well, he showed that last
actually,
night.
yeah. Uh, Do they? I think they have Jack Caglione as well. Do they
They
not?
do, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So they've got a couple, really the two biggest power threats from Kansas City, aside from Bobby Witt Jr. on their
right.
team. Like these are it's not a complete roster, but there are MLB players on this
Yeah,
roster, and these guys can go out and they can give you a fight, and they showed it last night.
yeah, and I mean, they're scrappy. I mean, but they scored 8 runs. I mean, man, you know, I I got sleepy and I had to get up and get out to a meeting this morning. But so when I turned it off, it was 4-0 Italy, and I thought, oh
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, fine. It's only the fourth inning. They'll get back, and they didn't. Um, Italy tacks on 4 more runs, and then they come up short, 8-7, and tonight, it's all or nothing, and that game's at 7 o'clock on FS1. Uh, the game in the top of the first, which is on FS2, is Canada and Cuba. Uh, Both of them are 2-1 in their pool play. Um, and then the night cap here at 8 o'clock on Tubi, which is a free download for those of you who don't know. Just go to your app store and or Google Play and download Tubi, and it's uh, Fox's free channel, and Venezuela, who's 3-0, and the Dominican, who's 3-0, play each other tonight. That's going to be fun too.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Sandy Alcantara is pitching against Eduardo Rodriguez in that game. That's some pretty heavy duty, arsenal there, folks.
Yeah, and these are two of these are your two most loaded, really more of the Caribbean-based teams, those South American-based teams. The Dominican, I think everybody understands who the Dominican Republic is. But Venezuela has a lot of really solid players.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Ronald Acuna is going to headline. They've got
Mm-hmm.
Eduardo Rodriguez pitching as well, and a guy that I personally, I don't think it's been shy about it. I'm a big Red Sox fan, and my favorite player for the Red Sox is William Brave, and he's on Team Venezuela,
Mm-hmm.
and he is fantastic. So they've got the depth, and they've got the players that can match up with the Dominican, and they've got the same style and the same, like, I guess, spark that the Dominican carries
Mm-hmm.
into the game of baseball as well.
Pitching tonight for Italy is Aaron Nola, my friends. That's not a bad start. Assad is pitching for Mexico. Uh, the lineups for Italy's lineup has not been announced yet. But we have the Mexican lineup, which is Duran leading off at left field. Randy Rosarena is in right. I'm sorry, flip it around. Duran's in right field. Rosarena is in left field. Armanda is at first base. Kirk is catching. Menace is the DH. Alvarez, Junior Alvarez, is third base. Gonzalez is second base. Thomas is in center field. Ortiz is on shortstop. That's your lineup tonight for the folks from Mexico. And as I said, we don't yet have the Italian team's starting lineup, but we
Yeah.
do know Aaron Nola can pitch.
We do, yeah, and that's I would say that doesn't bode, like, when you're watching this and you're rooting. If you're rooting for Team USA, then you're rooting for runs, really, regardless of the outcome. As if it's a high scoring game, then you're going to be okay regardless. And in terms of that top, I think, it does help a little bit that Duran's a lefty,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a strong top when you go Duran, Rosarena, Aranda, and Christian Kirk.
Sure,
Those are all really good, high level MLB players. I mean, you're talking about really four all stars at different points in their career who are
sure.
still at one pretty close to the height of their games as well.
Mm-hmm. They also are, however, swing and miss guys.
Mm-hmm.
And with Aaron Nola, Aaron's not the 90 plus mile per hour pitcher he once was. Um, he's just a very smart pitcher. He's a pitcher to contact, and on the downside, if you're USA, is the last person you want to see on the mound when you need runs is Aaron Nola.
Hmm. Yeah, he's able to create that soft contact, really more
Mm-hmm.
in that style of the ground ball type pitcher. So whoever Italy does roll out there, they're going to have to play good defense behind him. But you are
Mm-hmm.
correct. He does pitch to contact. He does know how to work around hitters, and he can work his way through a lineup better than most in terms of not giving things up.
He reminds me of some of those pitchers in the early '80s that pitched for the Braves.
Yeah.
Um, there are three or four of those guys. They weren't, they were what we call painters, right? They
Hmm.
were worked the corners. They made you hit their pitch, and they didn't make mistakes that often.
Yeah, kind of like there's the guy who I remember most vividly playing for the Braves as I was really little growing up. That was a fantastic ground ball pitcher. Was Tim Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
He was great,
Well, he's a
and
sinker
he kind
ball
of
pitcher.
fits that mold. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There was that was quite a group of people that they had in that the only guy, the guy who had the heat, and he was like a low mid to mid 90s, which nowadays is like, okay, well, you can only throw that, was Smoltz,
yeah, yeah.
and he
And
could
I
only
mean,
do it for an inning.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't something he was able to sustain over a full nine. But
Mm.
I mean, when you've got the stuff that Glavine and Maddox had, it didn't matter.
Well, Nola reminds me a lot more of Glavine
Hmm.
because he's smart, he knows situations, he doesn't get flustered when he gets in high leverage deals, and he basically knows the hitters. He's one of those guys that sits down, watches, grabs the tablet, watches the hitter, and he's probably a phenomenal student of the game. Uh,
Yeah.
I would imagine when his career is over, that if he should want to, I would think he's probably either going to be a top flight pitching coach or maybe even a manager.
Yeah, I mean, when you're able to, there are some guys who just see the game a
Hmm.
little bit differently, and like, hey, you can see and understand and not have the same physical abilities that some of the other players have, but your understanding and your knowledge of the game can go a lot further in terms of making you the player that you are.
Well, being involved around the Washington Nationals and seeing Philadelphia a lot, over over the past almost 20 years. Aaron Nola, despite you know injuries, despite not having the velo he had, has probably adapted as well as any pitcher in baseball to what he's got.
Yeah, because his velocity hasn't it never increased. I would say
Mhm.
probably at his peak he was probably sitting 94, maybe
He's a low
95, and it
90s guy. Yeah.
yeah, and it wasn't consistent. But yeah,
Hmm.
he settled back down to that 92 range, which
Hmm.
is a much more hittable baseball in terms of
Hmm.
speed.
Right.
Um, but when you're able to move it and you're able to spin it like Aaron Nola can,
Hmm.
then you're able to sacrifice some of that speed for a lot more movement and spin and placement as well.
Yeah, and the fact that he's got that sweeper, um, which it's not fast, but it's deceptive. It's there and then it's not.
Hmm.
And you're going to hit 9 times out of 10, Aaron Nola's going to make you hit his pitch.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
how long Aaron Nola can go, that's the other part. I don't know. I don't
Well,
see I don't see them pitching Aaron Nola 7 innings.
yeah, and that's the good part about the World Baseball Classic is
Mhm.
there is a pitch limit, there is an innings limit on these
Right.
guys. So yes, Aaron Nola can go out there and he is allowed to be effective for I think the limit's 65 on him.
Yeah. Hmm.
So he's allowed to go out there and he can be effective for 65 pitches. But after those 65 pitches, then they're going to have to pull somebody out of that bullpen, and I think that's where Italy's going to have their problems is when they get to that
Well, they did
bullpen.
last night.
Yeah, so it's going to require Team Mexico, and as we talked about, they have a strong top of the lineup. So again, as you're rooting for Team USA, you want the top of that lineup to be able to grind out those at bats, not show that swing and miss that you were talking about, and really be able to force an early exit out of Aaron Nola so they can get to that weaker side of the bullpen. Make him only go 2 innings. Keep his leash short and get to that bullpen a lot quicker, and you'll see more offense.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is that if you can, I mean, even you want Nola, even if Nola goes through the lineup once, right? In theory, that would be 3 innings, and he gives up a run or two. That's okay because you're hoping that they've got Michael Lorenza, who isn't really he's worked a starter and a reliever, but he's not exactly a household name. Gordon Grisfella, who is a top prospect for the Cardinals, Dylan DeLuca, who was a World Series star, in college, but not yet in the pros. The relief pitching staff has got. I'm looking for somebody here who maybe might. Well, they got Olavino. He's a veteran, setup guy more than anything else. I'm looking Mariuccio. He's an MLB reliever with swing and miss stuff. Matt Festa. He's a journeyman bullpen guy. Dan Olavia. He's a power reliever, but has control issues at times. He has some left-handed options. Sam Allegretti, Joe LaSusta, heir of Alex Jacobs, and Kyle Nicholas. That's the name of the pitching staff that the Italians have tonight to go.
Yeah, and you listed the starting pitchers that they have as well. I would be nothing short of shocked if this is not an all hands on deck type of game for both teams. So I would assume that starters will be made available, unless it's I don't actually know who started for Team Italy last night, but unless they pitched last night and they were the starter and they went the full 65 pitches, I would assume that they'll be available to pitch tonight. Even if they went the full 65 pitches, there's a chance that they might still be available to pitch again tonight.
Well, I mean, it's like, remember last year when Yamamoto was warming up in the bullpen, ready to go in case, and he pitched the night before.
Yeah, and I think that's what's special about the World Baseball Classic is you get that type of game, and what otherwise is, when you look at it on the surface level, an exhibition game.
Right.
Is you get the opportunity to have everybody bought in, all hands on deck. Like, yeah, I pitched last night, but yeah, I can go again. You get that type of atmosphere. You get that energy. And that's what makes this thing special. Because for as good as that Italy and Mexico game is going to be and as important as it's going to be, I'm also going to be just as interested in that Venezuela and Dominican Republic game.
So I'm looking here at the pitching staff for Mexico. Oh man, I don't see a lot of. I mean, they've got some arms, right? But I don't know. I mean, it's nothing on this lineup thing jumps off at me as like, okay, well, they can throw 3 guys out there. If they pick these 3 guys, they can get through it. I mean, it's. I would say that I would give the advantage to Mexico only because, you've got pitchers who, even if they've played in the Mexican League, that's a pretty high level league. So go ahead.
I think the frustrating part is, as we've gone through these lineups and talked about these pitching staffs, and we make note of how a relative lack of experience that some of these guys have on this stage. That's why it's so frustrating that the United States is not in position to control their own destiny. Is because you look at these lineups and you're like, these guys do not have the same experience. They're not at the same level. And yet, when you look at the runs given up, they've been much more successful in pool play in terms of run prevention.
Yeah. Tell you what, after this break, we're going to come back and get final thoughts and predictions for tonight's game. Until then, hang on, guys. This is for our buddy, Zach. Bye-bye. You need real estate, a nice house down in Georgia or South Carolina or anywhere in the South, go get our guy, Zach Bobo. Zach's our boy. All right, my friend. Here we go. Last thoughts. Who wins tonight? Does the Americans? I guess the best way of putting it is, does America, the United States, move on, or is this going to be? Are these guys going to be back in spring training in about 5 minutes?
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel great about America moving on. I really don't. Made mention that Aaron Nola is starting for Team Italy. I like Team Mexico's lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I like really their team overall a little bit better than I like Team Italy's.
Mm-hmm.
And for as much as I like their lineup, and I think they can hit, it's still, when you look at it, 5 runs is still a lot of runs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant amount of runs to still have to score. And so I don't love their chances. I do think Team Mexico is going to win tonight. But
Mm-hmm.
as someone who would like to continue seeing Roman Anthony wear the Team USA jersey, I would really prefer it to be by 5+ runs.
Yeah, it's going to be. I don't know. I said this in our pre-show, and I kind of stay with it. These two teams have every reason to play a low-scoring baseball game, if for nothing else, just to keep the U.S. out of it.
Yeah, and what I will say, and what I'm curious about, is that there is still the knowledge that neither one
Mm-hmm.
of these teams are guaranteed for the quarterfinals either. So they're
Sure.
also playing for their quarterfinal lives, which
Mm-hmm.
feels better, and I think that's the reason. Obviously, rooting interest is why it's a little more frustrating for the USA.
Mm-hmm.
But another reason why it feels so much different is the fact that it's different when you have the ability to control your own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Italy has, and that's what Mexico has. The U.S. does not have that same luxury, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's why it feels a little bit different from the U.S. But this thing's far from over. It's far from decided.
Sure.
I think all options are open, but I just think that Italy and Mexico advancing is a little bit more likely than the United States finding their way into the quarterfinals.
Right. And I'm going to agree with you on this, because I think when we get to those games, like you just mentioned, both of them have to play to get in the quarterfinals. You tend to play a much more conservative style.
Yeah, safer. You're
So
more tense.
right, you're like, I don't want to be the one who makes the mistake that gives up, the run.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
I think the veteran presence of having an Aaron Nola on the mound, and for that matter, an Aaron Nola in the dugout afterwards,
Hmm.
um, is definitely something that is extremely helpful,
Yeah.
to Team Italy. And of course, like you just said, I mean, you've got any one of those bats in the top 3 guys that we talked about is capable of blowing out, big time and scoring a lot of runs. I mean, Mexico could score a ton,
Hmm.
but you know, these guys, these guys are also very good at just getting on base and going station to station as well.
Yeah. Well, Jaron Duran's hit 3 home runs in
Hmm.
what I think is 3 games, and then an OPS hanging around 2,000
Right.
in his time with Team Mexico. So we're going to cross our fingers
Mhm.
and hope that that continues tonight for him.
Yep. And Rosarena's been fantastic. I mean,
Hmm.
you've got players there that would love to come through and do well. So I think it's gonna be fun. I mean, who would have thought that a large portion of the country who are baseball fans are going to be watching Italy play against against Mexico on a Wednesday night in March.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is some of the best baseball that you could absolutely ask for in the
Hmm.
middle of March when you're normally hanging out in spring training and
Right.
and you're worried about prospects and stuff like this. Tonight we get to watch the Stars play on the biggest stage. with
Mm-hmm.
some of the biggest stakes we've had in a long time.
And a Team USA standing back rooting to get in. So it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
this is March Madness already in the
Absolutely.
baseball version of March Madness. Well, guys, we got to get going out of here. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Matthew. And we will be back tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is Thursday, and we'll be talking college hoops because a lot of tournament plays going on right now, and we can kind of sift through what's going on and let you know what's happening and what's going to happen over the weekend. So, with that, Matthew and I bid you a fond adieu, and away we go. We'll see you tomorrow.